Hey everyone. In this video, we're going to be talking about the hard support or position 5. This is going to be the first video in a little mini series I'm going to be making about just kind of for beginners or newer players, how each of the 5 roles work. And starting with this one, we're going to do position 5, and then I'm going to work up to position 1. So just, stay tuned for the rest of the videos, and I hope you enjoy this one. All right, now getting straight into the hero pool of hard support. This is kind of pretty solid choices. Dota Plus actually made this category, and I added a couple heroes at the end here, but these are pretty much the general heroes that you're going to be wanting to pick as a hard support. And if you're newer and looking for specific heroes to play, I would recommend Crystal Maiden. Very straightforward hero. She's got slows, she's got roots, she's got decent damage. Jakiro's another one. Great damage, good disables. Lich, great damage, good disables. Ogre, tanky, disabler. You can stun like for 80 million seconds. Great hero. So those are some heroes I would recommend. And what makes a lot of these heroes good is they're strong in lane and they have really good abilities that pair well with another hero. So if they have a +1 hero, they can pretty much set up any kill in the game. And they have really good disables to kind of guide the team throughout team fights. Now, for the rest of this video, I'm going to be talking about a few things. I want to talk about laning stage. I want to talk about early rotations and helping out with certain objectives. I want to talk about mid game. I want to talk about late game, and I want to talk about warding. And those are kind of the 5 key things that you should be focusing on. I would say primarily laning stage. If you can get your laning stage down, that's going to be a huge help in understanding how the game should be played. Okay, now the general job as a 5 position is to make sure your carry has a good lane and that they're able to last hit and they're able to stay in lane and not get bullied out by the enemies. And there's a lot of ways you could do this. You can pull camps, you can harass the enemy heroes, you can kind of tank spells for your carry to make sure they're not dying and being harassed out. You basically, your entire focus in the laning stage is to make sure your carry and your lane partner is happy and not getting bullied out of lane. Now, the short answer is your priority in lane is to make sure your carry is hitting creeps and getting gold. Now, the way you want to do this, it all kind of depends on your hero and the enemy heroes and your carry hero. So, let's say in this game, for example, Miposhka on Enchantress here, he's playing Enchantress and he's got a PA in his lane as a carry. So now Enchantress, he knows that Enchantress is a very strong laner and she's picked to dominate the lane and to be super high pressure early game. And PA as well is kind of picked to dominate the lane. She's got high damage spells early on. She's got high burst damage output. And just by throwing dagger, PA can sorry, excuse me. PA can help kind of just mess with the enemies. And so Ench, so his goal now in lane right now, as you'll see, he's just hitting the enemies over and over and over. He helps secure the range creep. Now he's going to walk back a bit so he doesn't go out of position to Tiny. And he's just going to be hitting them over and over and over again, trying to relieve pressure from his carry and make it so that the his carry can hit creeps and he's getting the enemies lower if they want to make any sort of kill plays. Now, different heroes have to play accordingly to just how their hero works. But if you watch Miposhka here, this is something you can do on almost every hero in the game. Now watch what he does. I'm going to go back a little bit here. So you're just watching him. He's hitting, he's hitting, he's hitting. He helps get the range creep like we saw already. I went back a little too far. I'm sorry. But what he does here is when the minute marks comes up, he walks in and he stands in this camp. If I hold Alt here, I'll see that there's a box around this camp, and standing in it prevents the creeps from spawning. Now, if we go back a little bit and we watch Tiny here, if I can figure out where Tiny is, Tiny's going to walk over. His courier does get killed, unfortunately. He's going to walk over and he's going to place a sentry in this camp right here. So what happened just now, if you don't understand, Enchantress walked up to this camp and she body blocked it to prevent the creeps from spawning. And Tiny walked over and he placed a sentry ward, which will body block this from spawning here. See, there's a little box around here. If you hold Alt, you can view that. And what this does is it stops the creeps from spawning, like I said. And this means that no one can pull. So pulling is a huge part of playing position 5. So that's why it's a little bit complicated, but if you're as Enchantress here, she wants to block this big camp so that they can't pull the creeps from here down to here. They want to pull like this. and then Enchantress wants to pull these creeps up here to her lane to pull it back. So what this does is, what will happen is, I'm going to play the replay, and we'll see eventually if they can pull the creeps back, if they get a pull off. I'll talk about that when that happens, but typically what happens is when you pull the creeps back, so the creeps stop here and they walk down here. So then these creeps that are in lane will keep pushing forward and go closer to the tower. So what PA wants to do, I know I'm kind of rambling. I'm not very good at this quite yet. It's kind of just like one of my earlier videos, so I'm not very good at making YouTube videos yet. But so now PA, if you watch this, PA, she is playing kind of just like she's happy to be near her tower because that means less pressure from Tiny and Magnus, as opposed to if PA's down here, if the lane's down here where my cursor is, if the lane, can you replay? Can you stop? Thank you. If the lane's down here, sorry, I got distracted. If the lane's down here and PA has to hit creeps here, Magnus can walk up and go behind her maybe, or they can just hit a bunch of hits. But now since the lane is up here and PA is under her tower, they're not going to be able to contest her without walking into tower range or getting massively out of position. So now if you watch what Miposhka is doing, I'm going to go back to his view actually, because it's really nice to see his perspective. He's just hitting them over and over as much as he can because it's a 2 melee heroes versus a ranged hero, and he knows what his potential of his hero can do, and he knows how he wants to play Enchantress. So he's just going to keep hitting Tiny over and over and over. Now, PA does, I will show you the mistake here. PA does walk out of position slightly. I mean, not even really, honestly, to be honest. This is just kind of a cheesy lane. But PA walks up for a bit, and she gets tossed back by the Tiny, and then, you know, it's out of his control. What you need to realize in Dota, sometimes you can't control what your teammates do. So it's not even that big of a mistake of PA as well, but, you know, there's nothing he can do about this, but he's still playing the lane really well. He takes a point in his heal and his W. He knows what his abilities do. I'm not going to cover Enchantress specifically, but basically the gist of how she works is this is a huge slow, and this is a heal that heals out nearby allies. So what he wants to do is he wants to use healing when he's hitting them. So if they hit him back, he'll get healed up, and this is called trading. So whenever the supports or any two heroes kind of hit each other, they're trading back and forth, and whoever has more regen or more sustain will typically win the trade. So he takes a point in his heal, and he just heals up whenever he gets hit. Now he does get gone on, but they messed up here a little bit. And then right back to just harassing. Now this is kind of just how you want to play position 5. Now I want to talk about the importance of pulling. This is a different game, but I want to talk about the importance of pulling. So the lane's going well for them, and then Caudle pulls back this lane. So what will happen is when Pangolier respawns, who's the offlaner, sorry, there's a lot going on. When Pangolier respawns, he's going to have... Hold on. So when Pangolier respawns, he's going to have the wave at his tower. Since Caudle pulled this, so let me go back a little bit. Let me go back a little bit more. So the wave is up here, and what would happen is this creep wave is going to walk right up here and meet up here. And so Pangolier, instead of farming down here, he's going to have to walk all the way up here. So since Caudle pulls us back, what happens is the creeps walk all the way up here. The creeps are all the way up here, and this is a much safer spot for him to be in. So that's why, as a Crystal Maiden, as a 5 position, you want to be blocking this camp. So what Caudle did is he bought his own sentry, and he unblocked this camp here. So, which allows the creeps to spawn. So now what he's going to do on Crystal Maiden is he's going to walk over here. As soon as this is in farms, he's going to stack it. So hitting the creeps, and then so anytime this camp is open, remember this creeps spawn. So he's gonna stack it, and he's gonna block at the same time. So he's gonna body block this camp because he does not want Caudle to have an open camp to pull again, because the lane being up here just makes Pango a safer place to farm, and Luna has to walk all the way up here to hit the creeps, which is very dangerous for her. So what he's gonna do is he's gonna block this, stack that. So now the lane's in a little bit better spot, and they're a lot farther ahead, and they're way stronger, so Luna doesn't care that much about it. The lane's going to static here. But, I mean, again, this is kind of a different scenario because they're just so much stronger. But, yeah, I just wanted to kind of highlight the importance of pulling. And another thing that Luna does here, which Crystal Maiden can easily do, and again, it doesn't matter if you're playing 5 or 1, pulling is a thing you do to win the lane. So now, if we watch here, Luna pulls the creeps back, so her creeps will go into this big camp here, and what will happen is the enemy creeps, if he let it, but he's going to farm it up because he's about efficiency right now, he's much stronger than them, but if he let it, if he walked back here, the creeps would follow him, and they would bypass this, so these creeps would walk all the way up here, and he could put it like right in front of his tower and be in a much safer place farming. And since these creeps would go to here, and another thing I didn't mention yet is if a neutral creep kills your ally creep, it denies the XP and gold. So that means the enemies will not get the gold for it or the XP. Actually, I think it denies half. I could be wrong. Go look it up if you're very curious, but I'm pretty sure it denies half. So now let me talk about another thing here. And this is back in the CM game. I know I just showed I was showing Enchantress earlier, but this is a different game. What he does is, why is the replay like this? Okay, that's a little bit weird. Anyways, if you notice at the 55-second mark, he comes over and he stacks the camps. So since the creeps are not on top of the camp box, he can actually respawn it. He will have the creeps respawn, and so if you have a hero that has innate farming capabilities like Luna, or if you have someone that buys Battle Fury or Mjolnir or Maelstrom, sorry, they can farm this. So what this does is it basically doubles the gold in the creep camp, and it gives bonus XP. So stacking gives bonus XP to whoever stacked the camp. So now Crystal Maiden, anytime an ally farms these creeps, Crystal Maiden will get XP. So stacking is very important to do when you have downtime. And what you'll notice in these replays is, as a 5 position, this Crystal Maiden never has downtime. There's never any time when she's standing around doing anything. This is what makes you a really good 5. There's always something to be doing. He's bullying out the Coddle and the Pango over here. His Luna's hitting creeps, so then he stacks the small camp, or he blocks the big camp, or he pulls, or he stacks camps in the jungle. And now what he's going to be doing at 7-minute mark here, let's see what he does now. He's going to walk over, again, use a few spells, and Pango just drops because they're so much more farmed, and he's just doing a really good job at keeping the Pango low. And so anytime Pango walked up, he would die, or just he wouldn't be able to hit creeps. So now the lane is 7 minutes in, and Pango's just so much farther behind than Luna. Let's check the net worth here. Yeah, Pango has 1900 compared to Luna's 4100. So basically, as a 5 position, he gave his Luna a free lane, killed the Pango a bunch of times, and now Luna has double the Pango's net worth. And there's pretty much there's no way Pango can come back to this lane. So it just gives Luna the free start that he needs to just snowball and flash farm the rest of the game. And by the time 30 minutes comes around or whenever, Luna has 6 items, they can just end. So, and all of this happened because of the 5 position. So that's why I tend to say 5 is the most influential role in Dota sometimes, especially during the laning stage. Now he will go down to a mid laner gank, but guess what? He died to the mid laner gank and not Luna, which it's not that bad of a trade. He gets to go back to base. He gets to get resources. And then let's watch what he does when he respawns here. Kind of want to move into objectives now. Now, depending on what hero you're playing, you're not going to have the luxury to just hit nonstop and really harass people out of lane. But let me just play it here. What you will see, what he does do is he gets behind the Magnus, and Tiny's missing. He knows Tiny's gone. So what he's going to do is he's just going to walk up. He's going to use his creep to do a ton of damage, and he's just harassing nonstop. They actually bring him down here because he knows Tiny's missing, and so he's going to use that to his advantage to try and pressure the Magnus as much as possible, and they actually do find the kill. And then he's, because of his hero Enchantress, it's a little bit atypical to, just farm creeps a lot like this, but he knows how his heroes played. Again, this guy's a professional player. So you do want to hit creeps on position 5. It's not like you never hit creeps at all, but there's a time and a place to do it, and that's kind of what he's doing here. But his PA gets full control of the lane creeps. His PA does go down, actually. This is the mid laner ganking them, so it's a little bit out of his control. But let me just go forward here. He actually farms a lot on Enchantress. This is kind of not an Enchantress guide. I'm not making it to be one, but maybe it's a bad example to use Enchantress. But here's another example, and here's another topic I want to talk about, actually, which is contesting runes. So now in Dota 2, in the mid lane, there's 2 runes. There's one here, and there's one up here where he's standing next to. And every 2 minutes, a rune spawns. So once it hits 6 minutes, a power rune spawns. And as your job as a support is to contest the runes and help your mid. And now some lanes, you're just not allowed to leave. You have to stay there, just for whatever the circumstances are. Like your carry's getting bullied out too hard, and if you leave, you're griefing his game. But in this game, his carry's got a nice time. Let's check here. Yeah, his PA is top of the leaderboard. He's given him free farm, essentially. And now he rotates to go help his mid laner. So by doing this, you're helping your mid laner get the rune, which is very important because mid laners typically have bottle. And now this helps, just like he secures a kill. His carry actually does walk over. He grabs 2 kills out of this. Oh, no way they killed a mid laner too. This is just insane gameplay and awareness from Miposhka here. But yeah, so he helps carry in lane, and then towards the ending of the laning stage, which is around 7-8 minutes. And like as a support, you want to be roaming. You don't really want to stay static in your lane because you want to make things happen around the map. This goes for 5 and 4. So now is when the lane kind of just ends. And you saw in the Enchantress game as well, around the 7-8 minute mark or 9 minute mark, depending on how your game's going. You kind of just, your lane ends, your carry starts to flash farm and not carry so much about fighting the enemies. And so you typically want to play with your strongest hero, or you want to look to do things on the map elsewhere. And since Luna's not getting pressured or nothing's happening top, he's free to kind of move around the map wherever he wants. So if you watch his player perspective, this is not me moving, you can see that he's looking around. He's watching bot lane. He checks mid to see if anything can happen there. Pango's going to shove the wave and walk away, so he knows nothing can happen mid. Zeus is not there. Zeus is going to just walk to the rune. He checks mid to make sure Zeus doesn't need a bottle refill or he needs to help mid or at all. And then he sees nothing else is happening top or mid, so I'm going to TP bottom. That's his thought process. He's going to come bottom. He's going to try and make stuff happen on the map. Tiny finds a nice toss back. They toss him back into the root, and they slow him up. Do they get him here? They get him. So his map awareness and understanding to not just TP back top after the laning stage is over, and he knows nothing's going to happen mid, so he just TPs bottom, and it actually sets up nicely for a kill on the enemy carry. So he's roaming around the map now. He's no longer playing the laning stage, and he's using the lead he got in his laning stage in his early level 6 to go bot and help get kills. So now if you watch, he plays with his Tiny. He puts some wards down. Now is the time in the game where you want to start warding and being a lot more active on the map instead of just sitting with your position 1. Because if you notice, Luna has a free game. She just wants to hit creeps. She just wants to keep snowballing her farm, hit creeps as much as possible, pressure the Pango when he's there, but Pango's low. Pango can't even come to lane because Luna's so far ahead. So CM did her job in the early game and laning stage. And now that laning stage is kind of over, she's moving towards the mid game. And what is she doing? She's not sitting around doing nothing. She's not sitting mid lane getting XP. She's helping make plays because she had such a good lane. And now all this depends on how well your laning stage went. So let's say he's level 3 or 4 at this time. He probably won't be able to make as much happen. Obviously, he can still play with his teammates and make stuff happen, but it's a lot easier if your lane goes well. So you want to keep that in mind. But he's going to come bottom. He's going to help his teammates out. They're going to take a fight. They're going to kill Treant. Now, the enemy did put a bunch of numbers here. So he will back off. But that's typically what you want to do. You don't want to sit in your lane static forever and make nothing happen. You want to be active on the map as a support and use your early game power and, as to your advantage. It's the same thing as what the enemy supports are doing. So if you'll see, actually, it's a little bit different the way you play Caudle. But Caudle has to catch up, so he's going to be farming mid and taking XP. But if he was some hero like Clockwork or something who won their lane, Caudle would be looking for kills bottom. But since he's not, he needs to catch up. And Treant is going to be bottom getting kills. So you kind of want to judge the game. And this takes a lot of time and experience. So don't expect to be good at it right away. But you'll see even the Treant. This is a very high MMR game. So the Treant's playing with heroes he knows can make kills. So he's playing with his Kunkka. He's playing with his Wind Ranger. And CM's doing the same thing. CM's playing bottom with her Tiny, who she knows is the strongest. Zeus has ultimate. She doesn't really want to play with Zeus because Zeus, the way Zeus wants to play. And it all comes down to your knowledge and understanding of the heroes. So over time, you're going to get really good at this stuff. But what separates him from the rest of the good 5 players is, just the rest of 5 players in general, is he knows so much about the game, and he knows what heroes are strong at what time in the game, and he knows where to pressure and when to pressure. And he knows how to make things happen on the map. Now, this is a different game by another pro player, and he's playing Disruptor, position 5. And what I want to point out right now is, look at his last hits. He's got 16 last hits. Look at his cores. His core's 80, 90, 96. As a 5, you don't want to be hogging all the farm on the map, but you do want to get some last hits in. You want to get to your key items. But as 5, you're going to be able to make things happen without your key items. So like without Glimmer Cape, he has 5 kills, 1 death, and 6 assists, only with essentially no items. Now what he does here is really good if you pay attention here. So we're watching his player view. He sees Ember and he sees Huskar. He knows this Huskar has Aegis, so he's going to come back to life. And so what he does is he doesn't just immediately walk and go on Ember as soon as he sees him. He's playing careful. He wants them to go on his Huskar first because he's a support in the back who has 6 armor and 1,000 HP compared to his Huskar with 2,400 HP and 19 armor. So he's not tanky compared to his team. So he plays relative to that knowledge. So he plays in the back. They go on. They all commit on Huskar. He walks in, drops a beautiful ultimate onto 3 of them, and then his Huskar, his Huskar will go down, but he has Aegis, and they all die for it. Placing wards. Another thing I want to mention is it's a little bit difficult to go super in depth on warding because it's kind of its own video on itself, but 5 positions are always carrying wards because they want to make sure they have vision to fight, especially around nighttime because everyone's vision is decreased during nighttime. Every 5 minutes it switches between day and night, and at nighttime you have less vision. So putting wards down is essential. So what does he ship out on his courier? A sentry ward, some regen, and one of his items. So if you watch how he plays, he buys more observers and sentries. Of course, you're constantly shipping out observers and sentries throughout the entire match to ensure that your team has good vision. And what he did, he put a ward down here. He doesn't have a lot of wards down on the map, but he's got enough to make his team have information. So, but you'll see he puts a sentry down to de-ward. He buys wards. He's going bottom to set up a kill. He's putting wards down. He's checking for de-ward spots. He wants to make sure the enemies don't have vision so they can't see his team freely, and he wants to put vision, which is a little bit different in high MMR because his vision's in smaller spots to make sure that it doesn't get de-warded. But he definitely wants to have wards up to spot the enemies and watch their movements. Because knowing where the enemy moves allows your team to counterplay that, whether if they're ahead, they want to go fight and smoke and kill, or if they're behind, they want to dodge and keep farming. So unfortunately, he does go down, even though he knew they were all here. I think he knew they smoked, so he was baiting out the smoke to die for his teammates. Which those are things that high MMR players think about all the time. If you watch what happens, he respawns a little fast. He respawns, TP's mid, kills that guy. He walks up. He's basically just setting up kills and playing with his team. So Disruptor as a hero on its own is very horrible by himself, but with a team, he can glimpse them back. He can slow them with Static Thunderstrike. He can kill them with Static Storm, disable them. A lot of 5-position heroes need to play with their team, which is why a lot of people argue that 5-position is really hard to play in lower MMRs. But if you're good enough at the role, you can easily win on it. Easily win on it. There's some of the professional players are 9, 10, 11, 12k just on 5-position alone. So there's no roles that are bad for climbing MMR. You just need to be good at what you're playing. But if we watch Seb, he walks over here. He's playing with his team the whole time. He's putting up wards constantly. He's not really farming creep waves on his own. Fast forward. They actually smoke up here. So he buys a smoke. Another thing I should mention is Smoke of Deceit. It costs 50 gold. When you buy it, it smokes everyone around you, making you invisible, and you will be revealed when you get close to an enemy hero. So this is a common play to smoke so that you can walk around the map without being spotted by the enemies and find them and kill them. And this is very nice to know as a 5-position because you typically want to buy the consumables, wards, smokes, dust if you need them to help enable your team. Doing all this just enables your team to farm, get kills, because they're going to be super strong at this point in the game. His carry is extremely farmed, 10k net worth. His carry has Gleipnir, almost BKB. His carry's super strong. He just needs that vision and that 5-position to enable him to get the kills. So if you'll watch his positioning as well, he sees the enemy heroes. he walks straight up and he wants to start the fight. So notice how on his team he doesn't really have any initiators. Monkey King doesn't really want to go first. Wind Ranger could go first, but she's more of a solo kill target. She doesn't really want to get bursted down. Huskar definitely wants to go in first, but he found a great opportunity here to walk up and catch them. And since he knows that his whole team is here, if they commit on him, he might die, but he got his spells off first. So that's very important in team fights. And if you're playing a different hero, let's say you're playing Oracle or something, you want to stay way farther back and save your ultimate for a later time. But since he knows his limits of his hero, he walks up and drops ulti immediately, which just sets up perfectly for the team fight. And it's just decisive. They kill those two heroes really fast just because of his awareness to walk up and press the ultimate. And he catches more. And these are just things that you want to be doing as 5. You just want to have knowledge of your hero and how it works. Typically, you don't want to be frontlining on Disruptor, but he knew that his team is much stronger, and they're all right next to him, so he's going to walk up and start the fight by just dropping down that Static Storm. Now, let's move on to late game here. So, his team's ahead by a lot, and watch what he does. Actually, I'm going to go back a bit. So, he bought a gem, which is a great thing to do as a 5 position. It costs 900 gold, and when you die, it falls to the ground, and other people can pick it up. But it allows you to deward and see any, like, you can see sentries and observer wards without placing a sentry in, essentially. It gives you vision on the area, so it's really good for dewarding and controlling the map. So this is something you should keep in mind if you're playing 5 and your team is very far ahead. Buying a gem will help secure the map. So now what he does is he actually walks first, which is kind of a psycho play, but he knows they're around in the area and he wants to get up this vision. It's very important. So hence why he's walking up with Glimmer Cape to make sure he doesn't get bursted down. He's drawing on the map to show his team where he wants to go and where he thinks the enemies are. And he walks up and his first priority is to get a ward down. So what happens is he sees the drow. And if they were far behind, he would not be going first. Believe me, he would not be going first. But they're 21k gold ahead. He knows that if he just finds the enemies, they're going to be able to kill him, even if he dies. So he's not really afraid of anything. So what happens is he walks up, he places this observer ward, which is very nice because it just scouts the entire area. So if there's like a hero behind drow and this ward wasn't there, they would not be able to see this hero, and this hero might be able to jump in, get a nice ulti or something. But since they have perfect vision, they know Brew's dead. He walks up, gets a great ward down, and this just enables the team to fight. But notice his positioning. He doesn't walk up and just go crazy. He sees the drow, he walks away. He gets some spells down, he gets his vision down, and he walks away. And the way he plays the fight, he presses Glimmer, and he's just trying to kite out as much as possible. Now, Ember is spent half the time in this team fight chasing Disruptor instead of helping his drow. So what happens is drow dies, and then Huskar's able to freely just rain down on all these people. Meanwhile, Ember is not able to help because he's focusing on Disruptor. So kiting out on Disruptor was just really nice in that fight to help, just further his team's dominance. But if you notice the fight, he doesn't chase, he doesn't overextend, he doesn't do anything like this. He just gets some spells down, kills the enemies, keeps minding his own business, presses the gem to check, and now he's going to go help defend this, he's going to go push in this creep wave, which people say, farming's bad on 5, but it really isn't, because he's not farming, but he's pushing out the wave, and if, since he's doing it since he's low resources, and he can't really contribute to the push mid, but he needs to keep this lane out, because if the lane just kept pushing it would take the tower. So what he does is he pushes out the lane. He knows he's low on resources, so he's going to just chill for a bit, and he's going to grab himself a Clarity, I think. Oh, I saw his career. Alright, yeah, he does buy a Clarity, and he buys his item. And then he's going to make his way back with his team. Checks the rune. His team got out, so he's not going to follow them. A lot of communication here. He pings the Ember, and this is nice because he has a ward here, and he's going to set up for his teammates. So if you notice, as a position 5, he's not ever doing nothing. He's always doing something, whether it's pushing out a lane that no one else is going to show on, putting wards down, setting up smoke plays, setting up kills on enemy heroes. Since he doesn't need to be hitting creeps right now, he's allowed to sit in this jungle and kind of set up kills as long as he knows he's safe. And so since he sees Drow showing top, he's going to find Ember here, and he's going to walk up, Glimmer himself so he doesn't get spotted. Unfortunately, Ember gets out, but he forces out Ember's BKB and 2 remnants, which is huge. So that's a very big win for him. But this is kind of what you want to be doing in the late game. Is you want to be, if your team's ahead, it all depends on the scenario, but if your team's ahead, you can be hunting for kills. This is a really nice play because he knows, again, his team's ahead. It's kind of a psycho move because he's walking up without his teammates. They're all bottom, but he's going to walk up and deward this to make sure they don't have vision, because vision is essential in the late game. His team's playing bottom. They know they have vision there. They're playing for next Roshan. He's controlling the map. He's just keeping map control. That's kind of a lot of what playing 5 is about, is keeping map control. He has this gem has paid off so much. He's gotten like 7 wards. The enemies are getting choked out of their base because they can't get vision down and go into any safe spots, because Seb is just putting vision down, setting up kills everywhere. Beautiful static storm onto Ember. Ember gets taken down. He's just setting up kills, and he's not overextending on any heroes. If you notice here, I'll try and find... let's try and find a team fight here. Let's watch this one. So he sees Embers here. He presses his spell on him and he walks away. He's running for his life. His Pudge gets a nice ulti down. Pudge is just kind of buying time. They know Huskar's not there, but he walks up, gets a nice ulti down. But notice how he never walks up here to get any right clicks in. He's staying as safe as possible because he knows how weak his hero is, HP wise. So he's just playing the outskirts of the fight. And this is a little more specific to Disruptor. Like, let's say he's playing Clockwork, that he's going to be wanting to jump in and be the initiator guy. But since he's playing Disruptor, he wants to play on the back line. And a lot of playing position 5, to be honest, is knowing your hero's limits. So he's just kind of doing this. Brew's going to commit on him, but he's pressing Glimmer Cape. He's kiting out hard. Basically, he's not even watching the team fight anymore because he needs to survive. And, the team fight kind of disengages. Let's watch the next highlight. One thing you can do in Dota is, if you want to learn from people, you can go in the replays and you can skip between highlights. It's very nice. Because it shows you when people are getting killed, team fights are happening. So if he watches... I mean, he's going in, but, like, he's not first. Let's watch... Okay. Let me explain this a little bit better. He's not in there. So they're going to siege, and look how far back he's staying. He's playing back here the whole time. Everything's going down. His Huskar's jumping in. Monkey King's over here. Wind Ranger's running in. He's in the back the whole time. He's getting his spells off. He's staying as far away as he can while using his spells and having impact. That's kind of how you want to play it. I'll find one more example of late game. Now, in this clip here, he's playing support Bane in a 59-minute late game. And so now Hoodwink actually is the one warding as a position 4, which is very much welcome. You don't have to do the warding as 5. It's just more common, and as long as one of the supports is getting the wards down, that's important. You need to have vision in late game. So what he does here is he ults, he blinks in and he stuns the Pugna and he ults, and then his immediate reaction is to run away because he knows the enemies are going to most likely go on him if he stays out of position up here like that. So he walks backwards, kites out, his team comes over. The Pugna actually gets off a nice Wind Waker and saves himself, and he doesn't overextend chasing the Pugna, and he realizes that, they use their spells, and then he's not going to chase any farther. Like, if he would chase, he would die. He's very disciplined to not keep going, and that's kind of what it's all about. You need to understand and try and think about the team fight, and think about what spells and what heroes can kill you, and try to play as safe as possible, because dying in these team fights can matter a lot, especially as a support, because sometimes your spells are incredibly important with disables. But that vision allowed them to get the kill. Well, they actually didn't get the kill, but it allowed them to get a nice jump and not get, gone on and killed. And if they had gone on him without any vision there, who knows? The Radiant might have just turned the fight completely. Now, in this next fight, he actually... Let's watch this. So, he checks the cliff with the gem to deward it. He puts an obs down, and he pings out, like, hey, I want to play on this observer ward. So it's late game. It's very hard to walk over to their jungle where they have vision. The game is very close. It's an even game. He's got a nice ward here. They actually scan out bottom, and then he draws on the map like, hey, let's go fight the bottom. I'm gonna try and get a nice fight here. He actually walks down there, and then he immediately regrets. He's like, oh, they don't have vision. We realize they're there. He gets gone on, but thanks to his itemization, it's very important as a support to itemize to be a little more survivable. You're typically not going to be buying the Daedaluses and the Monkey King bars and the Mjolnirs that, like, carries do, because, you're not doing all the damage. You're trying to survive the fights and disable and help enable your teammates to be stronger. So he actually survives the spear, and then he gets off some spells. Notice how in the fight he's trying to stay as far away as possible. He doesn't want to walk into this Mars. He actually, like, he's kiting out. He gets a nice ulti off on the Mars. His tide's going in, and all this is happening, and he's walking backwards. He's kiting out during the fights, and they have a nice ward here to prevent anyone from walking up from this side. So he knows he's safe up in the high ground here, and then they actually turn the fight around completely. Meanwhile, all this time, he's never walking up to, excuse me, he's never walking up to chase the kills. He's staying as far back and as safe as possible so he can get his key abilities off. It's very important, and there's one hero left, and the rest of them are dead with no buyback, and that kind of just turns the fight. Let's say he died here, didn't get grip off on the Mars. It could have been a different story. You never know. It's very important to stay alive and to play with vision in team fights in the late game. That's essentially your job, is to supply vision, get your key spells off, and make sure your team goes unharmed in the team fights. Even if it means dying for your team. I know I kind of said the name of the game is survivability, but if you see an opportunity to get like a crazy spell off on the enemies and live while doing it, go for it. Even if you have to die, but you're going to take out their carry without buyback, it's worth it. All right, that's gonna be all for this video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed. I feel like I rambled a lot, and I feel like I sound like I'm some guy with ADHD or something, but I'm not. I just kind of have a lot on my mind. It's kind of hard to get everything I'm thinking about out of my mouth, out of my brain, and out of my mouth. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm trying to be informative about, kind of things to do and kind of typically how you want to play position 5. Again, a lot of it depends on your hero, but generally you want to, short little recap here, is you want to win lane, make sure your carry is as happy as possible and is farming as much as possible, and you want to relieve pressure from them. You want to play with your strong cores in the game. You want to stack camps if you can. You want to contest objectives and play with your strongest cores, like I said. In the mid game, late game, you want to be putting wards down throughout the entire game. Actually, you want to be putting wards down. You want to be making sure to play on your vision and take smart fights, and you want to be kind of you're basically guiding your team to victory by doing the unthinkable job that people tend to kind of forget about the 5 position, but you're doing so much for the team, and everyone just like sees the carry like, oh, you have a million damage, oh, you're so good. But it really is the support is the backbone of the team, and that's why a lot of captains on pro teams are position 5. But again, thanks everyone for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video. You can watch me every day stream Dota 2 at twitch.tv/DanielPandaman. Every day trying to get better at Dota. And a lot of these videos I'm making kind of for myself as well, just so I can improve at the game. And if you guys like it, awesome. Make sure to stay tuned for the rest of my guides on position 4, 3, 2, and 1. And I'm going to try and get a little bit better at portraying my information. But, done rambling. Thanks for watching, everybody, and have a good day.